G'day, 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 you absolute bunch of bloody internet legends. Loser Bum back on your screen with some no-scripted, single-take, retro computing, single-board computer content. And let's dive right in and go over to camera 2 to show what we're talking about. So we know that on this channel we like retro vintage stuff. Look over there, right? The problem with vintage, it's expensive. The parts are sometimes unobtainium. So we also like modern retro stuff, like, for instance, the Argon Light, which mixes the old Z80 processor with a modern ESP32 microcontroller. Done lots of video on that. Links in the description below. So nice bit of mashing of retro and modern right there. However, Argon Light is quite large, clocking in at, I think, over 11 centimeters wide. That's chunky. The Argon is a chunky boy, huh? All right, so instead, or not instead, but we also then started looking at things like the Neo 6502. Same principle. There's a 6502, which I think is this guy, and then over here we have an RP2040, Raspberry Pi 2040, also a microcontroller, which comes in at a much lighter weight, maybe 8 centimeters in the large axis. That's about 3.5 inches for those people who like kings and empires. All right, now, but that's still pretty big, 8 centimeters. It's maybe above what one would consider wearable. And here's the wearable. And ta-da, there it is. And I know what I hear you saying, loser bum, you stupid twunk. This is just a digital watch and not a very nice one at it. It's an old Casio. What's the big deal? However, the observant above you might have noticed this bit. The seconds, rather than counting seconds, and quick digression here, watching the seconds move on a day-to-day, or on a second-by-second basis, back almost 50 years ago, which is when I first saw them. Not quite, but it's getting there, 47, 48 years. It was the two coolest things about the watches is, A, that you had something digital computer-like moving all the time and counting the seconds. I was like, woo, from the analog world, and the number of buttons. This one happens to have 3, so you had the initial cheap watches which had 2 buttons, right, set and mode. Then you had the fancy rich kid watches which had 4 buttons. Obviously then Casio and some of the others went off the rails and made calculator watches, TV watches. Not going to get into that, but the seminal configuration is now 3 with a mode set and a light button. So that's how that worked. So something strange going on with a second hand. Hey, maybe it's just a bug or a special feature. So I have to press a button here, this one. So now it's counting seconds. Okay, it seems to be working normally. We fixed the bug, but now I start looking at some modes. So here's number 1, sorry, up. And it says no loc. It seems like this watch has the beef with the author and artist who made the Funky Cold Medina. Okay, you do you, no problem. Let's click some more. Instead of tone loc, apparently this watch is into the Bee Gees because it said Gibb. It's probably into Robin Gibb. Rather strange. And as I keep going, we have more normal stuff. Stopwatch, and there you're 24 hours and set. Let me unveil the mystery, and the mystery is actually what's inside here. For that, I have to go back to camera 1 and have a little bit of a look there. Here's Tone, here's Robin Gibb. What we are looking at there is a sensor watch. Sensorwatch.net, hence the name. By the way, quick digression again. People who make like hobbyist open hardware, like the Argon, like the Neo, like all kinds of things, they really need to invest in some branding, because Sensor Watch, if you put it into Google, brings up a million things and not this. So there was a few times when I lost the access to this, and it was kind of hard to find. But anyway, what's the Sensor Watch? The Sensor Watch is actually this little bit on the right hand side. Which is a drop-in replacement board for a classic Casio wristwatch, and we'll be looking at it in a moment. But my camera here with the detail is not very good, right? I mean, you've seen it, right? This is as good as it gets. It wobbles because it's hanging off a monitor. It's a webcam which has been tortured into doing macro photography, and it doesn't like it. So back to here. This is what this looks like. So it's a drop-in PCB which replaces only a part of of a classical digital watch. They talk about the F991W, which is the absolute ultimate classic with a plastic housing, 3 buttons. I've been told it's also known as the terrorist watch, right? The CIA apparently back in the like slightly spicier days, 20, 25 years ago, this was a signal that somebody was up to no good. What does a drop-in replacement mean? And also, what are the, how do I get one? How do I make it work? And what are things to look out for? So let's go back to the other thing, and I've already removed the backplate of this particular watch. This is not an F91W, this is actually an A158W, which is the metal housing, but the boards are interchangeable. Same thing. So if I take this and look on the back and just remove the insides, there they are. There's the inside. This LCD display, known as glass, like us who are in the know, we talk about the glass. This is the original one from however old the donor watch is. We'll get into the donor watch in just a moment. And by the way, yeah, nice and small. So there, and what you have on the back here, it's actually very hard to see because so you have this plastic, you have the LCD, and the back is this metal bit which holds the battery, and between the two is a circuit board. The original one, here's actually the original one which I had, looks something like, come here you fucker, looks something like this guy. Oh, there are 4 screws. Looks something like this guy, right? So there's a processor, there's some connectors for the buttons, and that's about it. And these connectors here, this line of connectors here, is actually what connects to the LCD. So I'm using the 10, 20, 30-year-old LCD, and it's connecting to a new circuit board. And this new circuit board is running an ARM processor, hence the joke in the title about the ARM on your wrist. So it's a modern 32-bit processor which is programmable and all kinds of things. And the new board, which is here, fits exactly where the old board fit. We'll get into what this thing can do in just a little bit of a moment, but I want to warn you about one thing. I already have 4 of the actual Casio watches, and only 2 are actually suitable for use. Why is this? Even though the digital watch is like a replaceable, almost throwaway disposable item and has been for 3 decades, people still make forgeries, right? It's something which is completely commoditized, but still people forge them, and the forgeries are not compatible. In fact, I suspect that this watch is actually a forgery. It's also not very good. The patina comes off, but there's a few things like the arrow on the clasp doesn't match the normal one, so I actually suspect it's a fake, and bits have fallen off. Why do I think it's a fake? Well, these are the original insides. You can see they're not happy. I got this off a flea market, and if you look back here, even in the crappy resolution, you can see that the back is fixed to the front with these little screws. I lost one along the way, whereas the original board doesn't have any screws, right? It's only a clip-on. So this is a fake watch housing, this is a fake watch inside, and even though if I were to unscrew this, you would see a connector like that, they won't work. This thing will not work with fake forged watches. So you're going to have to look out, because out of the 4 I bought, 2 were definite fakes. One was a success. That was this guy, and that's where this actual donor glass comes from. So this watch, which I bought, originally had this board in it. I swapped it, and it had this glass, which is allowing us to do all the funky stuff. Can I press the button even without a button? There you go. Now he's doing no look. Let's go back and talk a little bit about what this thing can do, and then I will go back to the hardware. So let's jump over here. Here we go. So yeah, you replace it. What can it do? It's got an ARM processor. It's got a microcontroller, 32 kilohertz crystal. It's got a green LED, so the light, it's no longer white, it's green. Mine actually has a sensor, so I have this, typical people making their own hardware. I'm making something which is like 2.5 centimeters across. Yep, but I still have an expansion slot. So this little thing here, you can actually plug in a a sensor. That's why it's called the sensor watch. Mine came, because I think it was the Kickstarter edition, I bought it together with the temperature board, which was the only one available. I plugged the temperature board in, and in the 2 years that I've had the watch, I've never actually displayed the temperature because I had the wrong firmware on there. We're going to get into that either in this video or in another video. But yeah, it does all kinds of things, and it's programmable. So what does that mean, programmable? Well, you can download different firmware which has different function and then just flash them on your board. Get into that in a second. Or you can make your own, right? Two ways of making your own. One is an actual online builder. I'm just going to demonstrate. So what my board is actually green, and I want a Zelda Secret Town tune, and I just want, I don't know, week number world clock, and I want a blinky thing, and I want a ship's belt, and I don't even want to know what a randonaut is. And I say, build a watch, and now he's like assembling all the components and making the firmware, and he's actually put it in this emulator now. Let's put it in the black, right? And here I can now test the functions, right? Red. I don't know what this means. I guess this is the random. If I press the random button, ta-da-da-da-da, hey, it's going to give me a random number, 359. I don't know. I guess it's 1 out of 1,000. Let's press it again. And as you can see, there's a bunch of these movements. And all I need to do is, I'm going to demonstrate here for you. I press the download button, and it's just download a watch.uf2. Friends of the channel will know UF2, very typical for binary format, which you send to things like Arduino, the RP2040 on the Neo 6502, yep, that uses UF2. So how do I get the UF2 over? Well, you have to look at the board. See this tiny little thing. Remember, we'll try to take the watch apart to show you. This tiny little thing is actually able to connect to a micro USB connector. So you plug this into a micro USB connector, you plug the other end into your computer. There's a reset button on here somewhere. I can't even see it, but I think it's this guy. There's a microscopic reset button. No, here it is. It's that one. Like really tiny. And when you press and hold that, like it says on the flashing, it'll appear as a USB stick on your computer. Then you just drag and drop the UF2 file, and all of a sudden your watch is doing new stuff, which is kind of amazing, right? So yeah, that's yes, I can make my own watch the way I wanted, with all the bits or none of the bits and whatnot, which is kind of cool. Now, I actually wanted a watch for this video which said loser bum in just a scrolling. I have a thing here. Hang on, I will build him here. Hello there, and we'll just use that one, and we'll use the world clock, let's say. And then we'll build the watch again, just for demo purposes. Here you go. So instead of this thing, which just says hello there, I wanted this thing to say loser and bum. However, that is not something I can do in this web UI. For that, I actually have to build my own firmware from scratch, compile. However, for Windows, which I operate on, here's a list of things you have. You have to install the GNU ARM embedded tool chain, some utilities, make Python, and then download the thing from Git and GitHub, the code from GitHub, which in itself is easy, but I'm not great with GitHub. I think I'm traumatized when I started with source code management software. It was a software called PVCS, which was crap, and it was run over a sort of VPN terminal emulation from Europe into the US. So it could handle files up to about 60 kilobytes, but only if once you did the upload, you didn't move the mouse and you didn't change the window or anything. And once we moved to megabyte files, you literally had a computer sitting there for an hour, and anytime somebody bumped the screen and moved the mouse, it would crash and you had to start again. Later on, we had CVS. By the time proper stuff like GitHub came along, I was like burnt. But anyway, you download the repo, you install this tool chain, and then you kind of just say CD movement make and just make, right? That's it, right? And you make a board, and that will do a UF2, and then you flash that. So maybe in a future video, I'll look into this and see if I can actually get Loserbum up on that screen there. Now, a couple of things before we dive into the hardware is how long does it last? I mean, surely an ARM processor on your wristwatch, which is powered, by the way, by your standard CR 2016 little watch battery, the absolute classic. There's a million different types of watch batteries, but there's a CR 2032, very popular, used for the battery backup on PC mainboards, and then there's the half thinner one, the 2016, which I think is because it's 1.6 millimeters thick. How the heck can that run an ARM processor for any longer than a couple of days before it empties? Well, two things. First, the processor is extremely low power. It's selected as an ultra low power microcontroller down to this and this in active mode and nano amperes, right? Nano amperes is literally me rubbing my hands together. It's probably making more than nano amperes in backup mode with RTC running. Now, I'm not on the detail. Go check the website. There's a huge community, all kinds of people doing crazy stuff. But in a nutshell, even the old digital watches, right, with their tiny little chip, that chip was not running all the time. The trick is the chip does this little calculation, for example, to move the second hand or the second display one further. Oh, that was bad. I just lost the screw because it's stuck here. Anyway, I have some spares over there. What it actually does, it does the calculation, and then the chip, by design on the hardware, goes to sleep. And on the hardware level, there's a very, very low energy timer, which just sits there and does nothing else but count down the time until it wakes up again, tells the processor, hey, we got some calculations to do. The processor, what? Comes up, eats a little bit of battery power, does its calculation, and then goes straight to sleep. This timer chip, because it's on hardware, that's a thing that uses so little energy, and I can vouch for it. One reason I'm doing this video, I've had it in my mind for 1.5 years, but it's because after 18 months I had to replace the battery finally, which is about the runtime of a real digital watch. So both the old ones did that, and this new microchip has that capability, and that's why you can run an ARM processor on your wrist for a year and a half on a CR 2016. Now, if you were to write a program which did a ton of calculations, let's mine crypto on our wristwatch, well, it would never go into this sleep mode, and then your battery would just drain much, much faster. So you have to think, how can I do my user interface in such a way that I do calculate, and then just go to sleep? And go to sleep means it's still driving the display, but that doesn't cost, that doesn't need much. That's just sort of wired through. And how can I make my program so that it just like very infinitesimally does calculations, and then 99.9% of the time is just there in sleep mode. One thing I'm not so sure about, and I encourage somebody to go into the community and see what they have to say about it, because I did these 490 nanoamperes, and I compared it. It's a little bit small here, but it's the CR 2016 is rated at 100 milliampere hours, and then I did the math. If I do 100 milliampere hours minus divided by 0.490, i.e. the nanoamperes, and then 24 to get days, I only get a lifespan, let me put this to a 1, of like 8.5 days. So I don't know exactly what they did. There must be other tricks in there that they're using to make this, because they're getting like 50 times, right? If I say this calculation times 50, then I'm getting sort of in the range of my 1.5 years. So hey, maybe I'll read up on it, or somebody will tell me in the comments. But yeah, that's how they get to the 2.5 years. So with that, the prepared part of the content for today is over. I'd like you to remind you, while we're here, to like, share, and subscribe, to tell your friends to like, share, and subscribe, and all of that good stuff. Do check out my my Argon videos. Do check out my Neo 652 videos, all the stuff. I'll be linking to that. And now we're going back over to the other machine, and we're going off script, because now what we're doing is we're going to see about a transplant. So as I said, a lot of these watches are fake, and you absolutely have to get a real one. By the way, let me just put some of this stuff in the various things. So this one belongs there. And by the way, this was my original donor watch, which the glass, that this I know was a real one because I was actually able to put the board in there. The challenge which I have with that one is twofold. One is the buttons are literally sticky. I've been at it with ultrasound and cleaner and thing, but I've got a latching I've got a latching set a mode button or set button, which is not good. I'm trying to set the clock, and then this button mechanically gets stuck and only comes out very slowly because it's only got the string power from this little piece of metal there pushing it back. And so I'm trying to set the clock, and he's just like ding a ding a ding because he's getting a long key press. So that's one. The other one, as you know from a previous video, link in the description below or on your screen somewhere, I recently got married in Nigeria, and Nigeria is a country of gold. They don't do silver, there is gold. So to match the watch with the ring, I have now gone for looking for a golden watch, which was why I had this guy. But as it turns out, this guy was a forgery, which is why his board is not compatible. And in general, it's rather ratty. I don't know if you can see here. Yeah, I won't show it, but yeah, I'm pretty sure this is a forgery. It's going to go into the spare parts bag. There's a few things I can reuse here. The rubber seal. I mean, this thing is supposed to be waterproof till 10 meters. Hey, after I've opened it 10 times, this thing isn't waterproof in like 1 centimeter of water, but that's neither here nor there. So this good watch, but you can see here there's some of the paint maybe a bit chipped off and the problem with the button. Still a possibility to go back if necessary. So it's not all wasted. So what have we got? And this is why now we're going off script. It's not an unboxing, it's an unbagging. Got this off eBay, actually paid money for it. So now open the plastic bag. Look, here it is. So here it is, plastic bag, and in there I have a nice, beautiful looking watch. It's got like a Casio original label on there. Little bit suspicious because this barcode is glued over another barcode. It's got a Casio certificate of guarantee. It's got a Casio other certificate guarantee. It's got a Casio manual. But is it a Casio? Well, we're going to find out. So the cool thing for the audience here, these, if you were to get your own board, these would be the steps you would walk through to make your own one of these watches. So you acquire the watch, you take off the piece of string with a certificate of unauthenticity. Take that guy there. So I have the watch. Unclasp that. By the way, this is not a. We're really going off the reservation here because this is neither an F91W nor an A158W. This is an 8159W because that has the black bezel. I prefer the black bezel to the pale gold one of the 158. And I have found no record on any of the Discords. By the way, I'll link to the Discord below. You can chat with the inventor, Joey Castillo, yourself, and there's a very active or pretty active community on there. They exchange things, make firmware, answer questions. So the 159 isn't even mentioned. So here it goes for science, right? So good start, and it looks brand new. And by the way, the 159 does have a nicer strap and much nicer gold to go with the ring. So what do? Turn it over, take my trusty little screwdriver. Make sure you get an exactly fitting screwdriver because if you're stripping the screw heads on these tiny little ones, that's a pain. So yeah. Sorry about this bit long-winded. 1 screw, 2 screw, 3 screw. There we go. 1, 2, 3. A screw. And the thing is, I'm going to cheat, right? In your world, you would now, if this were a real watch, which we'll find out in just a moment. Here we are. Open it up gently. As I said, it's kind of nice. What I like about these is the screw, right? You know, a lot of digital watches, they're kind of pressed in and you need the special tool and you scratch. Here, you just need a very small Phillips screwdriver. So here's the back plate. Looks good. And now we have the actual innards, and this looks new. So that's a very good rubber seal. In fact, no, I have to take it out because otherwise it won't come. But you have this paper here. Oh, and I'll mention one thing. It's hard to see here, but see that little pin there? That's the one thing I haven't done on mine yet. that little pin, I need to desolder it from here and then solder it onto the back of the sensor watchboard, because that's what does the sound. This little pin connects to the back plate, and that allows it to make the beep. So if it's not beeping, it's because you haven't done this little soldering. I'm not very good at soldering, and this stuff is so small, I have to find somebody to help me. So I'm sure there are watch people who are saying, oh my god, he's screwing around in the back of the thing. Bite me. This is my watch. I can do it. Yep, got it. I should probably have gotten some tweezers. Yeah, with that little piece of paper, we can lift it out. Now we can already see from the back that this might very well be a real one, because it doesn't have any screws. It's just kind of snapped together, and the little plastic pegs are exactly in the position where they're supposed to be. So tentatively, we're not going to prove it in this video, but tentatively, the A159W in gold seems to be compatible. The video's already getting long. I'm going to make a second one where I will actually do the transplant and also the reflashing of the new firmware. This one's already getting a little bit long. Don't want to go there. But just for yourself, the way it works is there's these little clips here. You can see that clip, you just take that off, and all four of them, there's four, and then the back metal pit just comes off, and then the board is literally just stuck on. There's no screwing, there's no gluing. You just got to be careful not to bend the metal too bad. Now, my problem is I can't even remember which is which. This is the one with a pin, so it's a real one. So now we will put this guy, making sure we have the buttons in the right place, in this watch. I have to make sure that's a bit straight, and then whoops, a daisy. Okay, see, the button's not quite working, and that usually means that it's not perfectly aligned. Oh, come on, you can do this. Like, none of the buttons are working. That's weird. Now it is. Okay, it had to be pressed all the way in. Here we go. No loc. So we have no loc. We have gib. By the way, we'll get back into a moment what the heck that means. So yeah, we have it here. We have I'm not super happy about the buttons. You have to press the buttons pretty hard. Let me go over here again. Yeah. Okay, so it's okay, but it's not great. So not sure where that's coming from. I suspect that the metal piece, which includes the battery holder, but also the little tabs for the button, is maybe more worn on my old watch. So maybe I do need the transplant. But in principle, at least from a size perspective, it works. And in the next video, we'll check if the 159 board is actually compatible, because that would increase the list. And then I would give something back to the community. And I think you will agree that, like, this with the ring, yeah, now we're looking properly Nigerians. The last thing I wanted to say, this video has already gotten longer than I wanted to, is why does it say no loc and gib? When the watch, at least the one which I came, as I said, never reflashed the firmware came with one so-called movement, so capability, which does the sunrise and sunset, but for that you need to like enter the location, the latitude, I guess it is. Yeah, you need to where am I on the planet, and that you actually do that by the buttons. It involves a lot of pressing the buttons. Because I changed the battery, it lost the location, so it's telling me I wish I could tell you the sunrise and sunset, but you have to tell me the location. That's why it's saying no loc. And why is it giving shout outs to Robin Gibb of the Bee Gees? It's gibbous, the moon. This is the moon phase thing. Again, I would have to enter in that one. I would have to enter not the longitude. It's where you are on the planet, like north, south, whatever. And that tells me a gibbous moon is one which is between half and full. So it'll say new moon, full moon, gibbous, and waxing, waning, whatever, that kind of stuff. That's cool. So single board computer, retro, and what I kind of like is that combination of really using, as opposed to a 6502 or an Argon, right? It's 100% new. There's nothing really retro in the entire thing. In this case, it's a combination of the old, like the glass, like the old LCD screen, and the new board. It's almost like if I were to take one of these machines here, let's say I take my my trusty MZ80K, rip out the insides and just put a Raspberry Pi, emulate it, right? So it's like, yeah, we're doing the old and the new at the same time. Really attractive to me. And fuck it, I like digital watches and I like fiddling with stuff. With all of that, let's go over here. You have all been a bunch of bloody legends. There might be another video come up, see how I get reactions to this one, and getting waffling, wondering. Anyway, you've all been a fantastic audience. I'm Loserbum, you're a bunch of digital watch wearing legends, and I am out of here. Oh, wrong button.